Hello again to another safety class, and today we're going to talk about stairways and ladders, which are part of either temporary construction or part of permanent construction. So we're going to talk about some of the issues related to their installation, their use, and their maintenance as well. First of all, we're going to talk about the most cited violations or the most frequent citations that happened in the industry. Over the past year, for example, 1,007 violations were reported related to the misuse of portable ladders 3 feet above landing surface, which is clause 1053B1 under subpart X, which is ladders in our code book. 310 violations were related to improper installation of stair rails and handrails, which is clause 1052C1. 294 violations for the lack of a training program, clause 1060A. 221 violations related to misuse of ladders, 1053B4, and 220 violations related to stairways, the absence of stairways or ladders when 19 inches or more break in elevation, which is clause 1051A. Now you should be able to extract these from the code book. You should know how to read the code book and read these different violations. Some facts about stairways and ladders. As part of temporary construction and maintenance work, ladders are used extensively on construction sites. So both during construction and after construction as well for maintenance work. Stairways and ladders may cause injuries and fatalities among construction workers, which are mostly due to falls, trips, or slips. About half the injuries caused by slips, trips, and falls from ladders and stairways require time off the job for people to recover, because you might have broken limbs, for example, or severe injuries that require some time off the job. The learning objectives from this lecture: by the end of this presentation, you should be able to recognize the importance of ladders and stairways in construction, identify ladders and stairways main design and installation criteria. There are certain numbers that you'll have to remember and certain slopes and so on, and visually identify and list violations from pictures. This, by the way, could be part of your photo case study, which is the project for this course. You can go to construction sites and start documenting issues related to stairways and ladders. Whether they are installed properly, you're going to say that this is installed properly, and you're going to cite the clause that shows that this is a proper installation, or that this should be a citation or a violation, and again you're going to cite the clause that shows that this is a violation. So whether it's correct, you're going to comment on it, or if it's done improperly, you're also going to comment on it, and what should the correction be. Where should we have stairways or ladders? There must be a stairway or ladder at points of access where there's an elevation break of 19 inches or more. At least one point of access must be kept clear. So this is the minimum requirement here. If you have a difference in elevation of 19 inches or more, you must have a step. You must have a stairway or a ladder leading to that difference in elevation. A distinction between stair rails and handrails. Sometimes stair rails could be also called guardrails versus handrails. As you can see here from this picture, the stair rail is going to be installed on the outside of the stairs towards the open area, whereas the handrail is going to be installed or mounted on a wall. So this is away from the open side of the stairs. The minimum strength required for these handrails or the top rail or the guardrails is going to be to resist a force of 200 pounds. A person leaning on that guardrail or handrail, that handrail should stop that person from falling or stop the handrail itself from breaking. It should resist that force of at least 200 pounds. Here's a picture, for example, that shows a violation. Why is there a violation here? Because there's a requirement. Stairways with 4 or more risers or higher than 30 inches must be equipped with at least one handrail. So if the difference in elevation is more than 30 inches, of course if it's more than 19 inches, then we're going to need a stair or a ladder. Now this is if it's more than 30 inches, and if it has more than 4 stairs, not only are we going to need a stair or a ladder, but we're also going to need handrails or guardrails on both sides of these stairs. As you can see also, this platform, which is open from 3 sides, should have also guardrails to protect from falling from this platform. So the stairway to this platform has more than 4 risers, is not guarded. The platform also requires guarding. Another picture, stairways, the same clause here, the same condition. We have here more than four steps, and it's open from both sides. The difference in elevation definitely is more than 30 inches. So again, there's a hazard of falling and tripping and slipping on this stair. The landing as well. When we talk about stairs design, you're going to find that sometimes you feel comfortable going up some stairs, and sometimes you would feel uncomfortable. On the other hand, also you'd feel the motion of going mechanically downstairs. You do that sometimes very quickly. If there's any non-uniformity between the height of the different risers, that again might cause some issues with tripping and falling and so on. So about the installation of the stairs, it has to be installed between 30 and 50 degrees with the horizontal. So the slope is going to be anywhere between 30 to 50 degrees. Of course, the lower the angle, the more comfortable the stairs are going to be, the less effort you're going to exert trying to get up these stairs. And they must have a uniform riser height and tread depth with less than 1/4 of an inch variation. So the 1/4 of inch here, this is the maximum variation between the heights of the different risers or the depths of the different treads. If you have more than 1/4 of an inch, that definitely causes some hazards and cause people to trip and fall. While we are building the project, we're going to use temporary stairs that are not complete or not finished yet. But the condition to use them is only use pan stairs if filled with filler material at least to the top edge of each pan. So here we have a metal set of stairs, and this is called the pan, which is basically hollow or empty on the inside. You must put some filler material, whether it's wood or something else. So again, this set of stairs should not be used until the filler material has been installed to the top edge of each pan. When we talk about landings, stairway landings must be at least 30 inches deep and 22 inches wide at every 12 feet or less of a vertical rise, because you don't want someone going down a long set of stairs without any stopping point or breaking point to break the fall if someone trips and falls. So we're going to limit that fall to a maximum of 12 feet. Therefore, if you have a difference of more than 12 feet, you must have a landing, and the minimum dimensions of that landing, as mentioned here, are going to be 30 inches by 22 inches. Unprotected sides of landings must have standard 42-inch guardrail systems, like this one here, for example. This is a guardrail. Although it's not complete, it's missing something here, which is the mid rail, but the maximum height here is going to be 42 inches. Where doors or gates open directly on a stairway, provide a platform that extends at least 20 inches beyond the swing of the door. So this door, when it opens, it's going to swing this way. So the door is going to be up to this point. Therefore, the landing should extend at least 20 inches beyond the edge of the door. Remember these numbers. So here we're talking about 30 inches, 22 inches, 12 feet, 42 inches. There are lots of numbers to remember from this presentation. And here we're talking about the 20 inches as well. If you have any oils or any grease or any slippery material, you have to fix that before someone uses these stairs, because again, if someone slips, that might lead to a fall, causing some injuries. So fix slippery conditions before using. Stairway parts must be free of projections which may cause injuries or snag clothing, trip or slip hazards. So this is basically what it takes to know about stairs. Now we're going to talk about ladders. So from stairs we learned about the 19-inch difference in elevation. We learned about 4 steps or 30 inches. You must have a handrail or a guardrail. We learned about the slope of the stairs between 30 and 50 degrees. We talked also about the difference in the height of the stairs or the depth of the tread, no more than 1/4 of an inch to provide uniformity. We talked about the landing dimensions, 30 by 22 at least. We talked about the handrail height, 42 inches, plus or minus 3 inches. It can be up plus or minus 3 inches. We talked also about if you have a door opening on the landing, then you should have at least 20 inches beyond the edge of the door. And finally, we talked about the necessity of providing a landing for every 12 feet, maximum of 12 feet of difference in elevation. You have to provide a landing. And of course, we're going to keep the stairs and the landing clean and clear of any obstacles or of any slippery material or anything that can hang or snag or get caught in clothes, leading to tripping or slipping hazards. This is basically the summary of what we discussed so far about stairways. Now let's talk about ladders. General ladder requirements. Ladders must be kept in a safe condition. What do we mean by a safe condition? Keep the area around the top and bottom of the ladder clear, again to prevent tripping and slipping. Ensure rungs, these are called the rungs, which are the steps of the ladder, cleats, here at the bottom, and steps are level and uniformly spaced. Again, similar to what we had in the stairs, for the uniformity you should not have any difference more than 1/4 of an inch. Again, while climbing a ladder is going to be sort of a mechanical motion, so you want your hands and your muscle memory to adjust to that height without much difference in the distances between the different steps. Ensure rungs are spaced 10 to 14 inches apart. So that spacing is going to be anywhere between 10 to 14 inches. Less than that is going to be too cumbersome, and more than that is going to be far harder to reach. Keep ladders free from slipping hazards. Again, if you're going to use any slippery material, make sure that if you have any drops falling on these steps, to clean them before using the ladder. Use ladders only for their designed purpose. Unfortunately, people misuse these ladders. They are designed primarily to move from one level to another, or to stand on that ladder if it's properly supported to do certain types of jobs. But misusing these ladders usually leads to the collapse of that platform and to some severe injuries. So don't tie ladders together to make longer sections unless designed for such use. Don't use single rail ladders. Don't load ladders beyond the maximum load for which they were built or beyond the manufacturer's rated capacity. Each ladder is going to come with a sort of a sticker on the side of the ladder showing its specifications and the maximum load that it should support. What we have here is an improvisation. You see, they're using the ladder as a platform for a platform, and it's very unstable, and that doesn't show proper maintenance or proper use of the ladders. Securing ladders. Secure ladders to prevent accidental movement due to workplace activity. So this ladder is just resting on this ledge here. It's not supported in any way from the bottom or from the top. So it can very easily be toppled, and that basically defeats the purpose of using it. Only use ladders on stable and level surfaces unless secured. I'm not exactly sure whether it's very flat or stable or level surface here at the bottom. So again, this is another issue because that ladder is not secured. Do not use ladders on slippery surfaces unless secured or provided with slip resistant feet. Some rubbery material that can hold itself and prevent the ladder from moving or from slipping due to that slippery material. We're going to see later on there's another violation here as well, because we have another issue with ladders extending beyond the landing surface. We're going to see that in a moment. For the portable ladders, here it's working on a level surface. It has some legs at the bottom that give more stability. Inspect before use for cracks, dents, and missing rungs. If it has any missing rungs, do not use it. Design or treat rungs to minimize slipping by basically, most of them would come already with a rubbery material that can give better friction and prevent slipping. Side rails, which are the side rails of that ladder, should be at least 11.5 inches apart. So the width of the ladder is going to be at least 11.5 inches apart. Here's another number to remember. The ladder must support 4 times the maximum load. So we're going to have a factor of safety of 4. So if the weight of the person here, for example, let's say is 180, let's say even 200 pounds, then this ladder should support at least 800 pounds. On some construction sites, we're going to find some double-cleated ladders, like this one, for example. It's double-cleated. Use a double-cleated ladder with central rail. This is a central rail. Or 2 or more ladders. When ladders are the only way to enter or exit a working area with 25 or more employees. So you don't want, for example, some of them to keep waiting at the bottom until someone gets down. You want to allow motion in both directions at the same time if need be. So if you have 25 or more employees, you have to provide a double-cleated ladder. And when a ladder will serve simultaneous two-way traffic for going up and down, you must provide a double-cleated ladder like this one. One of the very common mistakes is painting the ladders. Why you should not paint ladders? Because the painting might hide some cracks. So don't paint ladders. Don't use an opaque covering like varnish on a wood ladder, because again, it's going to cover cracks, and if the cracks are existing, we need to detect them, we need to correct them, or we need to retire that ladder. But covering it is not going to solve the problem. For the ladder angle, for the installation of the ladder itself, non-self-supporting ladders which lean against a wall or other support, so it's not supported, it's not secured by a tie or something else, they must be sloped at a 1:4. Basically 4 rise over 1 run. So position at an angle where the horizontal distance from the top support to the foot of the ladder is 1/4 the working length of the ladder. So if this is 16 feet, then this must be 4 feet. That's the 4 over 1, or the 1/4. The distance is 1/4 the length of the ladder. Notice that we're not measuring on the sloped surface, but we're measuring vertical and horizontal only. The ladder rail extension. This is a requirement here. When using a portable ladder for access to an upper landing surface, the side rails must extend at least 3 feet above the upper landing surface. Now, let me go back a couple of slides here. Notice that here, it's just resting on the landing surface. It does not have that 3 feet extension, so this is another violation. There are several violations here. It's not tied in any way, shape, or form. The ground is not level, and we do not have the 3 feet extension. This picture shows the 3 foot extension, so this is fine. But again, this one again also shows the 3 foot extension, and it shows that it's tied off to prevent any motion of that ladder and allow for safe going up and down. Sometimes we might have fixed ladders, especially for maintenance and temporary use and things like that. Equip a fixed ladder 24 feet or longer with either a ladder safety device to prevent falling, or self-retracting lifelines with rest platforms every 150 feet or less, or a cage or well, like this one here, we have a cage, and multiple ladder sections, each section not exceeding 50 feet. So these are 3 means of protection from falling using fixed ladders, if they are 24 feet or longer. Also, since we're going to be working at a higher level, we might get close to power lines. So if you're going to work near energized electrical equipment, if using ladders where the employee or the ladder could contact exposed energized electrical equipment, they must have non-conductive side rails such as wood or fiberglass to break the circuit and not allow for the current to flow through the body of the person working on this ladder. So here we show here an aluminum or a metal ladder, and working very close to power line or a energized electrical line. This is definitely a very unsafe practice. I don't think we have the 3-foot extension either here at the top, so there are multiple violations here. The top step. Never ever use the top step or the top of the ladder. So the top step should not be used as a step, nor the top of the ladder. These you should not use. So here we have a violation. This is a well-designed ladder. It shows here the sticker that has the information about its design and about the maximum load and about its compliance with the codes and so on. It has the cross bracing. So the back rungs as the front rungs are used for are designed for use, so you can use it from either side. Don't use cross bracing on the rear of a step ladder for climbing unless the ladder is designed for that. This is designed for that. How to maintain and inspect ladders. We learned before in another presentation about something called a competent person. So a competent person is someone who has the proper training, who can recognize the hazards and who can change the hazardous condition and correct it. So a competent person must inspect ladders for visible defects like broken or missing rungs. Here, for example, we have a missing rung, and it seems so rusty. That does not seem to be very well maintained. If a defective ladder is found, immediately mark it defective or tag it "Do not use," and withdraw defective ladders from service until repaired, because again they're going to remain a falling hazard until they are corrected. The correct way for climbing the ladder, believe it or not, there's a correct way for climbing a ladder, which is basically something called the 3 contact point. So face the ladder when going up or down. Use at least one hand to grab the ladder when going up or down. So you're going to have 2 hands and 1 foot, or 1 hand and your 2 feet. So 3 points of contact between your body and the ladder. Do not carry any object or load that could cause you to lose balance. So again, lift the load first using the proper lifting method. And as you can see here, if this is that does not seem like a landing surface, that's why we do not have the 3-foot extension, and we have it tied off properly here, and he seems to be maintaining the 3-point contact with the ladder. The slope seems to be okay as well, the 4:1 that we talked about. What kind of training? Since we mentioned that one of the violations is not providing a training program, so what kind of training should we have? A competent person must train each employee in the following areas as applicable. The nature of fall hazards in the work area, so they should know about the hazards of falling and what are the different elevations where they should be tied and so on. The correct procedures for erecting the ladders, maintaining and disassembling them, and the fall protection systems to be used. The proper construction, use, placement, and care in handling of all stairways and ladders, and the maximum intended load carrying capacities of ladders, which again is going to be 4 times the weight of the person or the load that's going to be put on this ladder. So some of the major reasons for slips and falls, common causes here, and how can you help prevent these. The user overreaches. How can we prevent that? Keep your body centered within the ladder. Always keep 3 points of contact with the ladder. The user slips from the ladder. Keep the rungs clean and in a good condition. Wear non-slip footwear. If necessary, clean the soles before using the ladder. And make sure that you are fit to work at a height. Make sure that you are trained to use a ladder. Keep the 3 points of contact. And make sure the rungs are horizontal and properly aligned. If the ladder wobbles, slips and falls, again to avoid that, position the ladder correctly on a firm level surface. Check the feet of the ladder daily. Fasten the ladder at the top and bottom and rest the ladder on a firm surface at the top. The risk of the ladder breaking, again position the ladder properly. Use the 1 in 4 rule for the slope. Do not exceed the maximum weight limit on the ladder and only carry light materials or tools up to 10 kilograms, which is about 25 pounds. Alright, so basically this is our presentation on stairways and ladders. Now we're going to have a quick quiz to see if we could remember some of the numbers, many numbers that we discussed in this presentation. A ladder or stairs have to be provided if there's a break in elevation of 19 inches. The slope of stairs should be between 30 and 50 degrees. The spacing between ladder rungs should not exceed, do you remember that number? 10 and 14 inches. A double cleat ladder should be provided when ladders are the only way to enter or exit a working area with how many or more employees? The cutoff number was 25. When using a portable ladder for access to an upper landing surface, the side rails must extend at least how many feet? Remember that? At least 3 feet above the upper landing surface. If you're placing a 16-foot portable rung ladder against a wall, the base should be how many feet from the wall? Remember the slope? 1 to 4. So which one? 8 feet? Definitely not. 2 feet? Absolutely not. Doesn't make a difference. Of course it does. So the correct answer should be 4 feet. Here are some violations about the use of ladders. We have several violations here. First of all, he used the top of the ladder. Not only that, he placed something on top of it, so it's a double whammy. So obviously that's a clear violation. What can I say about that? That definitely is a huge violation. Okay. Resting the ladder on top of the power lines. How genius. No comment. Does that look like a ladder that you should use in construction? Or anywhere? Again, necessity is the mother of creativity. You should not do that at all. For several reasons. Working near a power line and then supporting the ladder on the bucket? Absolutely not. Several issues here. Not proper tie-off. Very tall ladder connecting more than 2 ladders together, and I don't think that slope even is 4 to 1. So there are probably 3 or 4 violations here. Another example. First of all, again, the slope is not proper. There's no tie-off. They formed the platform from two ladders, and this is extremely dangerous. Look at this one, for example, another very big problem. How about that? Resting the ladder on another ladder and resting it on glass, which can break and cause injuries. The slope here is not 4 to 1. Again, 3 or 4 different violations here. Notice that these are all actual pictures taken from actual construction sites or construction related activities. Genius. So it might seem funny, but unfortunately all of these usually result in falls, injuries, and unfortunately in some cases fatalities. Imagine if this line is activated, or imagine if that person falls from this ladder. That can lead to a huge injury. So I hope that you've learned something about stairways and ladders in this lecture, and you're going to have the proper practice on your construction sites, and you can use some pictures from your construction site to document either proper or improper use of stairways and ladders. And I'll see you in another lecture.